Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we are back to another recording of Hearthstone. Today is Monday, July 15th, Amazon Prime Day. We'll probably talk about the Amazon Prime sales in general a little bit today, since that's been a major focus for it'll be a major focus for today and tomorrow. So it's not even Prime Day, they've already ruined their branding. It's 2 days, it's 48 hours, but also there's been ways to see upcoming deals and generally plan ahead for at least 1 day before that. So it's really a 3-day event, starting with the day before Prime Day, which would have been Sunday. Let's see, we need to play taunt minions and 12 minions that cost 5 or more, and play 5 mechs. Mechs will be easy because we have that. It seems like this Fire Festival is just throwing us extra daily quests, so we probably have missed out some daily quests, but I'm not really willing to play Hearthstone more because the way these daily quests seem to unlock, in particular, seems not to be consistent. It doesn't seem like at the beginning of the Fire Festival they gave us one extra daily quest, and then once we did that we got another extra daily quest, and then once we did that we got another extra daily quest. It seems like you got one per day extra on top of the regular daily quest you would normally get per day, which would mean I would have to play extra every day. Now, over the weekends, I did do some scheduling, so I didn't completely not work, but I do want to blow my brains out, figuratively speaking, whenever I have to do any scheduling on YouTube. And inherently, there's weirdness in the fact that we're moving from the old YouTube video manager to the new YouTube Studio Beta, because there's just things that aren't finished. Like, it is a rather ridiculous concept to say that this is
that's not a valid target.
That it is ready for prime time. Entire features are missing. Although maybe a lot of features are just going away, but some of them kind of can't go away or shouldn't go away. As I'm looking at the recording for the what is it? Doom 2, Master Levels for Doom, Final Doom. All of those are DOS-based games that are not running at a full 1080p. I'm recording at a 1080p, but I kind of would appreciate the old suggestion where it would automatically trim that video. It doesn't. I don't know how you would even enable that. It's been so long since I disabled that feature, since it was suggesting it to a lot of things, the trim and stabilization. And I suspect that there's a chance that actually that suggestion and that offer has been rescinded as one of the many things that have just been removed from the video editor function. The only thing that they're really holding on to as far as video editing that you can do on YouTube, which makes it easier than trying to download the video, edit it, and then put it back up, particularly blurring. Like, there's no software I know of for free that you can easily use to track people's faces and blur them, blur their faces. So that is really a very helpful and useful function that they have built in into it. And trimming is easier to do on YouTube's side because it doesn't require my computer to then be stuck just rendering a cut. Although I could do it with the in-place splitting software in a rough way. If I can find the exact time I want to cut out, I can split the video
to be sure.
into several portions and then leave the portion out pretty quickly. It's how I trim the beginning of these live streams where there's always a bit of silence. But you really would like to see new features being added, not old features being removed. And some of the other features seem to be missing quite a bit. So there's an example of like, okay, we didn't get any minions that cost anything, and now we need to draw 50 cards, and we need to play taunt minions. Who would have taunt minions though? I guess it's not the Paladin deck. Maybe it's a Mech Hunter deck. Let's try it. We're still in a situation where there isn't a ton of news happening, to say the least. Like, I can see the end of the road here. But that's fine, because I kind of need, if I am going to follow Prime Day, I kind of need to wrap up as a bit earlier today. Let's talk about Amazon Prime. Now, the dirty secret that I don't want certain people to realize is most of the Prime Day sales aren't actually sales. At best, they are a collection of lightning deals that happen throughout the year, and most lightning deals are not that good. However, Prime Day is a good day to remind yourself to purchase the things you normally wouldn't purchase, but things you actually do need. It is a very delicate line to dance around, certainly, because you can very easily, in shopping in any form or factor, you can very, very easily buy things that you don't need, buy things that you won't use in the next year, buy things that you'll never use, or overpay for things just because. The one thing that Prime Day would really benefit from would be free shipping for everybody, as if you have Prime, and possibly giving away Prime for people who spend over $500 to $1,000. If you could convince people to spend an extra $500 to $1,000 on this one day to get that $70 a year Prime option, that would probably cover your costs for having Amazon Prime existing, because then you've hooked the people into using the free shipping with a Prime to purchase even more throughout the course of the year. But they don't offer that. They don't give any of these sales to people who don't have Prime, so it's kind of a backwards way to push Prime. Inherently, I have almost everything I need. It's a weird thing to say, but yeah, there's really not a lot that I don't have, or the things that I don't have are so specific and niche or obscure that they're not likely to be on sale anyways. So I look at these sales and I see mostly things that I don't need. That being said, I do want an external hard drive. There is an external hard drive, 10 terabyte one that's like $160 instead of $180. That's 20% savings. 20% savings is about what you're getting on all the Prime Day sales. not particularly the best deal, but also not particularly the worst either. I need a new SD card, so I think I could buy a micro SD card. It's fine. Those are on sale, and then there's some upcoming deals that look like they might work for me, depending on if they're on sale. But there are a lot of things, when you look on the upcoming sale deals, you don't see the price, so I opened a new tab and we'll hold on to it to see what the price is, and a lot of times the prices are not that bad. Now, to get around why I don't want certain people to know about this, because I make a big deal about Prime Day around people that specifically don't ever buy anything for themselves or need to buy things in general. And I'm not saying they don't buy themselves once a month or they don't buy anything for themselves once every quarter. I'm talking people that don't buy anything for themselves once a decade, and certainly could afford that. There is frugality, and then there is going without for no reason whatsoever. Frugality, when done properly, is designed around you having a comfortable life, whatever that means to you, but mostly financially comfortable, but also comfortable. So you can be very financially comfortable if you're putting all of your paycheck into a retirement fund and then sleeping in your car because you don't have a house. That would potentially make you very financially comfortable until you get into bigger issues of getting thrown in jail for vagrancy or something like that, which would eventually happen. But that is not a comfortable life at all, sleeping in your car. So you have to balance that out and have a good, or at the very least comfortable lifestyle around being frugal. So yeah, sometimes I'll push people to go, hey, you needed this a year ago, you needed this 2 years ago, you need this still now. Let's just pretend like it's on sale a little bit more than it is, and let's just buy it now, because you really will do better without it. So yeah, that's my experience with Prime Day. I spent way too much time on it for what it really is. If you follow slickdeals.net, you get better deals throughout the course of the year for most things. One of the Prime Day sales that you probably would never really get on sale is there is a mortar and pestle that's on sale for like $20, that being a very obscure cooking / medical device, so buying that on sale is not a bad thing. You're not going to see that on sale very often. There's a stethoscope that's on sale. Again, medical device, not likely to be on sale very much. I'm going to just summon this way. And let's see.
Ooh, I wonder what this does.
Trigger that. Go ahead and win here. Might as well take the victory. I could have waited and end my turn and won that way, but there's really no reason to screw around with that stuff. I'm still not really playing enough taunt minions. Maybe there's something under warrior that would have taunt minions. Let's try that. There was a Tibetan singing bowl on sale that's coming up on Amazon Prime Day. That's extremely obscure. If you ever wanted that, If you truly wanted that, then yes, that might be a deal. Toys, if you're just looking for random toys, there are some toys, but there's only like 3 Legos and maybe 1 Barbie, and I wasn't really paying attention to the Barbies. So you're not gonna get top tier toys here. You're gonna get a random selection of things that are slightly over stock.
Job's done.
Which is that, and Prime Day pushes you to use like Amazon Music or Prime Music. I never use that. It pushes you to use Whole Foods, and Woot, I believe, is also owned by Amazon. Again, things I'm not interested in. So yeah, it's a bad system, frankly, the way things are depicted. And I'm looking at it on my cell phone, and the way the web page works seems like as I'm scrolling up, it will assume I accidentally clicked quite a lot and then mess up the scroll because it randomizes amongst its selections, so the page never looks the same when you go back to it, in a very annoying fashion. So I don't know. I don't know if there would be even a way to fix that per se. But yeah, not expecting a lot of video games. I think there's a PlayStation 3 fight stick device that might be cheap enough that I'd grab it. I doubt it's a very good fight stick. I very well may just buy it and use it as a box with the buttons already installed, and change out the buttons, potentially change out the stick, and hook it up to a Raspberry Pi or something along that line. So that would be more of a gadget project, which really don't have time for gadget projects. So I'm in the middle of scheduling Doom 2016, or at the beginning of scheduling that. After I schedule that, the only thing else I have to schedule for October is Zombie, and then we're into November, which there's some of that work needs to be done, in particular. And after, I need to decide how many things are actually going to air on my channel for November. November, I think we're going to shift all the time slots. No longer will it be on 45 minutes on the hour. It's going to be on 30 minutes on the hour. Just to see if that spices some things up with notifications and with people watching. I did get a new subscriber this week. We're kind of getting back to the point where entire weeks go and I don't get a subscriber, or I'm getting like 1 subscriber per week. It's not exactly how I'd want things to be going, certainly, but that's always the case. But yeah, otherwise nothing really happened this weekend. Just very annoyed. What I'm thinking is maybe with the way things are going now, I would schedule a video in between the recording of a video. I think that probably would never work or happen. That's mentally how you're supposed to do things, certainly. You're supposed to always do something for about 30 minutes to an hour. I forgot the amount, actual exact amount of time. And then after that 30 minutes to an hour, you're supposed to switch from doing a left brain activity to a right brain activity. For me, recording a video is probably more, I think, left brain. That's the more creative side. whereas scheduling a video would be the right brain, or this could be exactly backwards, which would be the more analytical, logical side, would be scheduling videos. So yeah, that's where theoretically it should be done that way, but I don't know if I'd really want to do it that way. Changing paces, taking breaks, or anything like that seems to just extend the breaks longer and longer, which I really can't afford to do that if I want to make a lot of content. There is something kind of silly because it takes what feels like 7 minutes, and I think I timed it out to about 7 minutes in actuality to schedule one video, because it takes so incredibly long by that stance. 7 minutes times 10 videos, you're talking an hour. There's usually 30 videos in a recording, so you're talking three almost 3.5 hours, yeah, to schedule just one series. So that is potentially, if you're going to work an 8-hour day, you can only schedule at most 2 series a day, and that's just way not the right number. It's way too few. Let's see. Just go on this. Just keep on shuffling bombs. Where's the minion that makes this work? There's supposed to be a legendary minion in this deck that would make more sense for shuffling the bombs into your alright. Okay. Okay. I saved myself nothing there, because this one can do 4 and this one can do 4.
You are
and I have
past
only
redemption.
6. The Lego, this doesn't have anything much to do with video games. The Lego VIP program has changed their website and changed how it works, and it seems like it is a total mess. Now, previously, there have been instances where I'm just going to try to druid this time. There have been instances where the Lego websites in particular were a mess, and it seems like Lego has been very slow and stupid about how they would implement technology and such. But this is definitely a backslide from what was a very simplistic, easy to understand plan of the Lego VIP program to what it is now. Previously, you would get, if you spent $1 US, you would get 1 VIP point. Now you get 6.5 VIP points for every $1 US. This seems like this is because it is being set as $1 equals 1 Danish / Swedish dollar, kroner, whatever they are. So this seems like this whole plan was probably written by hand by Lego headquarters in their motherland, and not considered with a global perspective. Which is kind of ironic, because the thing that that Lego
For the wild.
claimed they knew when they introduced Lego Friends, which has worked. Like, I'm not going to say Lego Friends is a total failure. Is that the thing they claimed is that from a global perspective of girls around the world, Friends was the way to do things. Get rid of the minifigs and make dolls, and go with a different color palette and different focus and different kinds of sets. So they claimed to have done all this research and to know for a fact that they had the global perspective. So it seems really weird to not have a global perspective on the VIP program, or maybe this fixes it. Now the translation of your points is not really a problem. It seems like they converted your current points into the exact right amount, so you didn't lose any on that. The next part of the VIP program is the problem. Well, it does open up this ability to potentially get what would have been exclusives, not specifically for VIPs, but exclusives based on certain purchases. For instance, there's like, if you buy one of the space sets that I most recently bought, the Lunar Lander set, you get this Lego Apollo project patch, like a glue-on/sew-on patch. In theory, if you didn't want to buy that set but you wanted the patch, you can now use VIP programs for that. But on top of that, you can also waste a ton of VIP points into downloading cheap coloring pages and just PDF files, which should have been for free, certainly not sold. Also, you can waste money by using your VIP points as gambling sweepstakes to go to certain Lego lands, and I imagine there will be other gambling sweepstakes, which is definitely not like the thing you would want to do if you're Lego, is to say, hey, we're getting into gambling and promoting gambling and microtransactions in the form of terrible coloring page PDFs. But the worst part about the Lego VIP program is no longer do you have the points just on your VIP card, and you can go to a Lego store and they say you have this many points, that equals $5 off or $10 off or anything like that. Now you have to go to the website, so that you will never actually bother to go to the website, and you'll forget about the fact that you have these points. And you have to click one of two redemption buttons to get a voucher. And if you click the redemption button to buy it in the store, then you just lose. If you redeemed like $5 off, if you go in the store and the thing you wanted isn't there, you pretty much have to buy something else, or you lose that $5 off. It can't go back into the system, it seems. Also, if you spend only $3 off of a $5 voucher, you don't get the $2 back. That money disappears too. So it is always like screwing you over in one way or the other, because either you're going to have a penny you lose, or you're going to have to go a penny over, because there's no way you're going to get it exactly on the nose as far as the valuation of those vouchers. But also, if you get a $5 off store voucher, well, that's not the same as a $5 off online voucher. So if you're going to buy it online, you have to get a different voucher, and there is just a lot of frustration and hassle you're going to run into through these whole systems, and the voucher part of that in particular just seems anti-consumer. Like the whole thing seems like it's been designed to be way more complicated for no good reason. It's not like the Lego VIP discount was ever really a big discount in the first place. Yeah, you were always buying, if you're buying Lego and exclusively Lego, and you're not buying some competitors like Mega Bloks, you're always paying that premium. VIP people in the VIP program in particular have always been your main supporters, so treating them worse is really not acceptable or welcome. Your super fans should be treated better, and I don't know exactly a reason why you would want to go that route. It's not even like there's a big problem with the Lego market share right now. Maybe perhaps toy sales have been down a little bit, but with Toys R Us going out of business and such. But I think Lego in particular has been going very strong. From the video I saw explaining all these issues, the best way to get a discount on Lego would be to start your own company and buy them in bulk in wholesale. Then you get like 20 or 30% off of them. Of course, in theory, you're supposed to resell those, but there's really nothing stopping you from running a shop and taking some home too. And I imagine that happens a lot more than people would realize. Let's see if we can do this now. All right.
Time waits for no one.
This and this. And this. And this. And in return. So yeah, like it's not a good way to treat your customers. Personally, though, I don't think it's going to change too much with me. I don't think this was going to be a big year for Lego purchases anyways, because I kind of have everything, and last year was kind of full steam with a lot of special sets coming out, in particular like the Mickey Mouse set, the Flintstone set, and just a ton of other things. I do think by the time we get to Christmas, there will be a new collection of Christmas sets for Lego, because they're selling and clearing out the Christmas gifts in particular right now, so they don't want them in stock for next year. Let's try Zoo Warlock. That's what it's just playing here. I really only need to get 2 daily quests done, but I think again that might be done off screen too. And we do need to get to the Asian account to do the Tavern Brawl, which will be probably a nightmare. So that's another thing to consider. I'll hold on to that card. So let's start talking about the video game news, of which there really hasn't been a lot. We're in a weird little slump still. I can only assume what has happened here, and this is a weird assumption to take, but I guess it's the case. Is that we had E3, and before E3 and after E3 there was a slump because of that. Then we had Anime Expo, which gave us a slight bump in anime focused games. and then after about a week of Anime Expo, we're back into the black hole that was created as far as E3 happened. Now, I know within the next couple of weeks, there is going to be a case here of a pretty major increase of games. We've started to get a few of them coming out. I know that game that was not advertised very much, and it's pretty obvious it wasn't going to be great, or it was going to be this kind of small indie thing, where it was the black furred girl in this flooded city. I don't think it's called the Sunken City, but it's something like that. It might be called Submerged, but there was a game called Submerged already, so I might be wrong about that too. That game came out to very little fanfare, and I think we are only a couple more weeks until we start seeing some major AAA game come out, and that will start playing a big role. It can't be too long. We've got 6 months till Christmas. The build-up has to kind of start happening because they want us to be in full hyped mode by the time November comes around and Black Friday comes around. Of course, it will be a kind of weird Black Friday, certainly, if Toys R Us can't majorly improve its kind of location. Like, Toys R Us right now is completely out of business, so it needs something that would what do I want to do here? I guess I want to do this. That sucks, but got nothing better I can do. Yeah, unless Toys R Us can come out of bankruptcy and open quite a few more stores, or some other store front decides to open quite a few more stores, or somehow in this economy a bunch of independent toy stores start opening up, it's going to be kind of a weird Christmas. Although maybe we don't need specialized toy stores anymore. There's still plenty of Targets and Walmarts and just general grocery stores that have taken a lot of that business up. But also GameStop, as far as video games, is not doing great, and Walmart and Target are less likely to have a wide selection of games. So that's a little weird too. Jeez, I would have thought there would have been at least one taunt minion in the Zoo Warlock deck, but apparently not. I guess at this point I'm no longer talking about the mobile game I'm playing, Destiny Child. Right now there's a world boss coming on that you're fighting with a much bigger team, and I just earlier today managed to do over 1 million damage in one fight, which is an accomplishment, certainly. But the thing about it is it's anime girls in scantily clad clothing. Even before you apply the uncensored Korean version, at that point it becomes a game that, while doesn't have direct nudity, is so close to nudity that you really can't play the game in public. Micro bikinis. The world boss in the uncensored version has basically a micro bikini, which is effectively saying that she's barely wearing anything at all. Let's see. So, yeah, that game keeps just improving and changing. So, it's still going good. I don't think there's real reason to mention Destiny Child much anymore as a mobile game. It's out there to play. Or now the other game, Clash Royale, that I'm playing, I am still slowly working down the process of being burned out on it. They changed how that game works drastically, and they've added a season pass system, and they clearly want a lot more money than they did before, and I'm close to 100%ing all of the cards. I really am we'll probably have to play for another year to get enough gold to upgrade everything, but otherwise I have almost all the cards at the max amount of cards you can have, which is what I've been working towards. So even when they introduce a new card, it's kind of somewhat easy for me to either ignore that new card or get the new card close to several levels upgraded. But the game itself, the actual gameplay in Clash Royale is boring. Which, Destiny Child in comparison, you're not even playing the game unless you want to. But also, I would say Clash Royale's art is not a bunch of anime girls, so it's not as intriguing. Finally, I found a taunt minion.
Why do you
There's a couple other games. There's like 3 other games that I probably should uninstall. Because I'm not even playing them on a daily basis per se. As far as the things I goof off on with and how that's changing in my day-to-day lifestyle, is more and more I'm watching YouTube and falling behind on watching YouTube videos, but a lot of that's garbage. Less and less am I listening to the old podcast I used to listen to, because a lot of them have just stopped making interesting content. The one thing I should be doing, and I'm making no real progress on, which would be making more YouTube footage, but also I don't want to burn out, and inherently, if I push myself to make more footage, I'll just burn out. And I can totally be honest and say, a lot of times when I cover games, it does often turn sour, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is not as good as it was hyped up to be, or this game does not hold up to scrutiny in modern 2019, modern day. There's been several instances of that, and it sucks. It really does suck that since I am now an official professional video game critic, you can't really just turn off your brain and say, hey, actually this is fine. And I'm also not approaching games as many people would approach games. Like, the majority of people, when they're playing a video game, are coming home from either school or work, and they've done 8 hours of something, they're exhausted, they're tired, they want to turn off their brain and just have fun, or a high chance of having fun. And that's not really where a video game critic is going to come from. We're going to look at the game as the 8-hour job, and there's going to be a level of desire to see that work. Well, this is going to kill me either way, so that's going to be it for this game. Yeah, the closest time when I'm playing a video game that I turn off my brain is when I'm playing Hearthstone every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And since we're doing this, it probably would be a smart point to ask people to subscribe to my channel and get anyone else to subscribe to my channel that they can. Doesn't matter if they ever watch any of my videos. I just need YouTube subscribers to get back over, to get over 1,000 subscriptions, which is the subscriber goal, I guess.
Versus Anduin.
Which would be effectively tripling the number of subscribers compared to what I have, but that doesn't seem insane. It was only maybe 2 years ago that I had barely over 100 subscribers. My hope, and this never panned out, however, was that we would get to a point on YouTube, or I would get to a point on YouTube where it would have a snowball effect. Instead of having a snowball effect, YouTube has pretty much had the opposite of a snowball effect on all content creators, where things just get more difficult and you have to struggle even more to climb uphill to get those subscribers. Yeah. So yeah, that certainly sucks. Let's start talking about games, because yeah, there's really not a lot going on here, and this could easily be a scenario that we need to speed up our process. Let's see. So we have a game here on Steam called The Purge Man, which is just an asset flip first-person shooter game using the phrase "The Purge" to make it seem like it is connected to that movie series. It's early access and requires VR. It's discounted to $7.99 and it's English. Also, it's just terrible. The reloading animation in particular is not even animated, and this low polygon garbage makes no sense. They named the developer and the publisher the name of the game, which is not intelligent, because it does immediately shows that you have no interest in ever making another game. And yeah, it's not gonna sell, particularly since it requires VR.
Is someone injured?
It's too cheap for a VR game at $7.99. It's way too cheap when you look at the quality of it. Unfortunately, I think that might be the majority of what we see today.
Unity,
However,
precision, perfection.
Job's done.
next we have a game on Steam called Defenders of the Keep, which says it's a single-player action casual game. It seems like it's a real-time strategy pylon defense, kind of sort of like a tower defense game. I guess by definition it is a tower defense game. So is there something here I would want to play? I don't think so. I will say Defend the Keep does look a little visually polished, so this isn't a low effort tower defense game, but it is still just a tower defense game. It's $7.99 English with full audio on this one. Yeah, Defend the Keep. Not gonna make it to the fall list. Speaking of the fall list, there will be the fall list cleanup, which I think it will come out in November. So that as a element are, I think that is going to come into play and become
I wonder what this does.
become an issue as far as what else airs on November. Now, traditionally, in the past, November was the month in which we were trying to say, hey, this is the month of thankfulness for Thanksgiving, basically. Let's look at all the games we got for free and spotlight them. That very well might be the way to go again, although I'm kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel as far as
I wonder what
as
this
far
does.
as how many how am I supposed to say this? How many free games I even have, because it's not like I was getting a ton of free games every year. It's just I had a pile up of free games. Some of the games I got in the Sega Genesis collection are labeled as something I got free, but I think I rebought the game, or they changed how that worked. So yeah, I don't know. That might be an excuse to just go through the entire Sega Genesis lineup and spotlight each game. There might be something to that, I guess. But I really haven't considered it. There is definitely a collection of other things I'd like to cover, and having a special month of Halloween, and then having a special month of... Interesting. I didn't realize that it was going to destroy all those... Oh, it does damage to all other characters. I thought it just did damage to non-mech characters. This will be interesting to see how this works. Theoretically, this is going to happen once, and then it's going to happen a second time. So yeah, we just keep getting these things that we're supposed to do, and that means inherently I'm gonna have to do these things again on the European account and the Asian account. They really wanted me to play every single day since the beginning of the Fire Festival, and I just don't want to play Hearthstone that much, even on one account, let alone the two other accounts, and that's still ignoring my backup account that I ignore all the time. Like, for a brief moment there, I thought I might actually donate my backup account to somebody who wanted to get into Hearthstone and say, well, here's an account that has a lot of cards and has like 25 packs you can open on day one without spending any money, and it'll give you a nice little step up. But honestly, I don't think anybody's going to be playing Hearthstone in the next couple years. So I don't think the backup account serves any value for that. The only reason it might serve some value is that it is a good account in case I need to do a watch and learn or challenge a friend and nobody's online on the Americas account, the American servers. But usually I can find somebody that is willing to actually play.
What is my purpose?
Moving on, Gamasutra has an article here. Respawn will deal with Apex Legend cheaters by making them fight each other. Inherently, this is how a lot of online player versus player games say they're going to deal with it. Now, the thing about being labeled a cheater in a video game is you'll always have a lot of cheaters claiming they're not cheating, and you'll always have some percentage, whether it's a large or small percentage, depends on how well they programmed their cheat detection software. But you'll always have some percentage of people labeled as a cheater when they really weren't cheating. So you run into this position, this dangerous position where you might isolate or segregate the players out into this section of cheaters versus cheaters unfairly, and people might have bad experiences. But the overall goal, regardless of whether it's done well or not, I guess, is to have the vast majority of players have a good experience.
I comply.
So it's not a terrible thought, certainly. Of course, in things like Hearthstone, you don't have cheaters really segregated or eliminated much. So if there are people out there that are cheating more than the average player, which is kind of a big if statement, certainly, but like nowadays the average player is going to hsreplay.net or using Hearthstone deck tracker like apps to help them have perfect memory recall. At least the average player who takes playing Hearthstone seriously is doing that. That does basically mean, let's see, I think this will work, that if you are a new player and you're not using hsreplay.net to tell you what decks to build, or if you're not using Hearthstone deck tracker, you're going to have a worse time. And even as somebody who has Hearthstone deck tracker running, I don't really look at it. I don't make any gameplay decisions based on that information, and that's just out of pure laziness. It really has nothing else to do with anything else. If I was looking at the Hearthstone deck tracker, I probably would win a few more times. But I definitely use hsreplay.net. Here you have something that's 10 victories to 2 losses, 83% victory win rate, when Hearthstone wants you to have a 50% win rate. That's a big difference. Personally, I don't care what Apex Legends does in general. I don't think Apex Legends is going to be one of the top tier things talked about, one of the top tier games being talked about anyways, so you run into that as an issue. I'm going to go over here to Paladin. Next game we have on Steam is called Rifle Marksman, which looks like it is just a platforming game. Kind of looks like some of the original Duke Nukem game, if anybody remembers that, or Commander Keen style game. But it doesn't definitely look like something that should look like this in 2019 or that interesting. Well, there are styles of games like this, certainly, but they don't go for a zoomed out camera angle and simplistic platforming and shooting. They do something closer to My Friend Pedro. This is 63 cents discounted, English only, and 9 achievements. So yeah, there's nothing interesting whatsoever in these visuals. I was hoping to see a bit more improvement or change to the Steam store, either before or during the Steam Summer Sale, which Valve has been, I guess, understandably super quiet about the summer sale. They really didn't put out any numbers or anything like that. Instead, they just moved forward and announced Steam Labs and tried to, I guess, somewhat change the narrative. That the Steam sale this year probably did not work well for them at all. And I don't really see that being because of the Epic Store or the possibility that that some companies were not putting their games on sale or not discounting their games as much because of the Epic Store. I just think that the Grand Prix idea and focus in general was lost. The Grand Prix idea was bad, and general focus seemed to have been lost on having a good sale. When, as I was talking about earlier, right now we're in a very weird position with video games being sold in a physical format. It would have made a ton of sense to play into that and say, hey, you know what? Let's have a giraffe character and make fun of the fact that Toys R Us went bankrupt. You could have had a full graveyard of toy stores, or don't make fun of it, embrace it as a nerd culture. Have the Steam Summer Sale look like an actual toy store with actual games on shelves, and relive your childhood experience. I think that would have been very much appreciated. But if they were just going to move forward with their new store front, they should have just moved forward with the new storefront. The blue has come and gone as far as being something that I would appreciate. We are several years into the black and white aesthetic for most web pages, so sticking with blue, solid blue background and stuff like that is ridiculous. They should have shifted over to a more white background. They would play better on computers, tablet screens and cell phone screens, and maybe just have some blue aesthetic here and there. It's kind of funny, Steam doesn't have a mascot of any kind. Like, it really goes to show that there is a just total lack of a PR department in Valve. But yeah, okay. The Steam sale didn't really do anything, and they're not really talking about it. And after the Steam sale, they still really haven't made enough changes to the storefront, which I would like to have seen a major change happen during the sale. So maybe in the fall sale, maybe in the winter sale, that'll be it. Could be Merry Christmas, here's a full new Steam storefront. But we're also, I guess, in a position where Epic can't come out and say, well, the reason why the Steam sale was so terrible is because of us and competition, because nobody would really buy into that. Next game we have on sale on Steam is Bepuzzled Jigsaw Puzzle Aquatic, another Jigsaw Puzzle Collection game for $1.59 discounted, bunch of language support. Of course, there's nothing interesting about this. I think I need to play this a couple more times, so I may fall below my rank, but whatever. Next game we have on Steam is a game called Yet Another Level, which probably means it is a low effort.
Nothing can escape my
Well,
fury.
from
I
this
will
perspective, it
fight
looks
with
like it's a
honor.
low effort, top down, roguelike dungeon crawler game. It seems to have some pretty simplistic art stuff. There's some kind of black shadow that seems to pop up over the face of the character over here, which seems very distracting. When we start looking at the screenshots, yeah, there's not a lot of variety in the screenshots or much that you'd want to do here. And it's just a very low effort name, Yet Another Level. They want $5 even for this. It says it has full audio English. I doubt it actually does, though. Yeah, this is definitely not a game worth being in that collection. Or being on the follow list. Alright. Do this.
Job's done.
That and that. That works good. If I can get some more people in my hand. So this needs to be kind of a later game play. Let's see. Next game we have on Steam is called Mythical Boom Party, which looks like a Super Mario Party. No, not Super Mario Party. What is it? Smash Brothers? Yeah, it looks like a Smash Brothers clone. Dudes, we've seen a lot of people attempt to make these Smash Brothers clones, and none of them understand just how much work that would really take, and how Smash Brothers only works when it is characters you recognize and would want to see fighting each other. Otherwise, it is just a generic,
Reporting for duty.
unimportant collection of people fighting each other. So, Mythical Boom Party is $6.99, no discount, English interface only. Yeah, again, a game not making it to the follow list, and yeah, you're gonna probably hear that quite a few times today, and then actually not too much though, because there really isn't that much news. TechRaptor has an article here called Screenshot Survey, the Unreal and Surreal. This seems to be a collection of screenshots of games. But are these games that are in development? Like, this looks like you're playing as you look a little bit like that Lilo and Stitch girl. This is from a game called Toonchi, which must be in development.
I wonder.
So these are kind of hype articles here. Here's a kind of marionetted character, but a juggler's tale is this game. Oh, I'm showing these right. The problem with looking at any game as it's in development is it's just not going to be anywhere close to being released. So you can already tell that there are situations where I've seen games and I then immediately forget them because there's just so many games. This looks interesting too, Blood Roots. But
Converting stored energy.
That's not a valid time.
so had to play there. And that was the last screenshot anyways. So I've never even seen these articles before, this screenshot survey. So either this is things I've been ignoring up until this point, or this is the first time this has ever been done. Or it's been the first time it's been done in a very long time, which is believable. Like,
Follow the rule.
I wouldn't put it past TechRaptor to try to make something feel like it's a long series before it actually is a long-running series, in the hopes that it will be a long-running series, or in the plans that it will be a long-running series. in the over time. Now, personally, I would go with the honesty approach way more, because that would make a lot more sense. It's just to say, hey, this is the first issue of a ongoing series we plan on doing of screenshots, although you're not going to on a weekly basis have enough screenshots for that to make sense. So that's gonna be an issue too. But yeah, I think once a quarter you could do screenshots of games being developed. Of course, again, hype articles that really don't need to be written about. It would make a little bit more sense if you were putting out a print magazine on a monthly basis to do hype articles and talk about games as they're being developed. But when you're doing a online daily news source, journalist site, you'd have no reason to do hype articles, to talk about games until they are out. Like, I still very much maintain that the right way to cover a video game is to maybe get an announcement post out saying, hey, this game has been announced, it's coming out, here's the name of it. Frankly, if they don't have a name for it yet, it's not worth talking about. So if Capcom came out and said we have an untitled project in development, well, okay, that doesn't mean anything to anybody until you have a name around it that people can at least identify in future articles. Once the announcement's been out, there's an announcement date possibility when there's an actual release date announced and for what consoles. If you don't have a release date and what consoles, then it's probably not worth talking about at that point either. However, it's silly if somebody said a game was coming out on, say, October 1st, and then they refuse to say, well, is it coming out for PC or Switch or PS4 or Xbox One? At least one console that you can mention. If you're not mentioning any consoles and giving a release date, that'd be silly. If you're mentioning, oh, this is coming out for PC and the Switch, but we don't have a release date yet, at least one release date for one of the consoles at that point, then that's not really newsworthy news either. After you have the release date out, the next article you should write about a game, in my opinion, is the review of it. And that should be that. That is definitely not what people see, however. Regardless of the mainstream video game,
Access denied.
regardless of what mainstream video game site you go to, you will inevitably see article after article covering some of the games, particularly AAA games, particularly games that are paying to be advertised, more than likely, trying to hype up those games. And inherently, almost always, those games are not good anyways, and not worthy of being talked about. Wow, you found a way to defeat me. So yeah, it can get rather annoying covering the same articles over and over again. So we still need 3 taunt minions, which means we're gonna have to fall down here. Or we could play Mech Hunter and work our way back up. I guess we could try that. Next game we have on Steam here is called Song of Spirit. Now this seems like this is a mouse-based movement game to do some kind of musical interaction.
Versus Uther.
It seems like it might not be a fully fleshed out idea or concept here, but there might actually be something here to this. And I kind of like the art style on the thumbnail, although in all fairness, that's it's so zoomed out you can't really see anything. And it doesn't seem like you get away from this world, this piano slash musical sheet design. It seems almost like what you do is you have to go mine trees and rocks to get certain colored gels that then act as your musical instruments. This might not actually be a game, this might be a demo. It was a game jam submission submitted in 14 days, and now they want made in 14 days. Now they want $9.99. It's English only. I'm gonna put this on the follow list because it looks unique. It looks different than every single other game I've ever seen. It does certainly have some inspirations, but I've never seen a combination of slimes and Rockstar and music. Now, I suspect this will be on the follow list, and then I'll look at the reviews and people say this is not actually worth playing, or this is not a fun game. There's nothing entertaining here, no story, or no reason that you'd really want to play it. I totally would believe that to be the case. But I am willing to give it a follow for its uniqueness. Let's see. Next we have a TechRaptor article. Indie adventure game When I Was Young tackles the Vietnam War this year. So the name of the game is When I Was Young, I guess. I wish people would learn proper style sheets and put this in quotation marks. Indie adventure game, quote, When I Was Young, end quote, tackles the Vietnam War this year. Speaking of style sheets, this is exactly how I usually type things. Capitalize the first letter in every word, but I don't think that actually is proper typing. But seems like people get around that. Do I think a game where you play as you play in the Vietnam War is a smart idea? Absolutely not. Vietnam War being extremely controversial and aggravating to people. It's not a subject. There's a big difference between the Vietnam War and, say, World War II. If from a non-American perspective, I think there's probably a lot of atrocities that the U.S. Army of the time did that aren't taught about in U.S. history classes, that would probably draw a very different picture from what even somebody in the U.S. who realizes the Vietnam War was a waste and should have never happened in the first place, to push it. I'm sure people in Vietnam in particular, who experienced the war, probably look at us like most people look at the bad guys in World War II. And it's so simple to say the bad guys in World War II and everybody know what you're talking about. Whereas in the Vietnam War, I imagine the U.S. is the equivalent there, although perhaps we did not do as terrible things on such a massive scale. I can speculate that. I can't even guarantee that's true.
I wonder what this
And
does.
certainly the United States has not learned its lessons completely as far as intervening or getting into battles and wars it shouldn't get into. So there might be an educational value to making a game based on the Vietnam War, but I don't think this game with its pixel graphics is going to get into that, and I don't think that this is really really the kind of game people would want to play. Most people would just prefer to forget that ever happened, I think. And we've already probably been doomed to repeat it anyway, so might as well just forget it anyway, because of that too. Let's see.
Ooh, I wonder what this does.
There we go. What do we want to do with that?
I comply.
Here we go. Moving on, TechRaptor has an article here, the 6 best Pokemon spin-offs. I'll be upset if it doesn't include Pokemon Snap, but no, they put Pokemon Snap at the beginning. Pokemon Snap really should be an augmented reality Pokemon Go game right now. It would make so much sense to have a Pokemon Go Snap or Pokemon Snap Go come out, and it just puts Pokemon in every scene it can find. Maybe they haven't gotten the technology to work. Pokemon Stadium games where you could fight the Pokemon from your Game Boy Pokemon things and transfer it over using this adapter was nice. It added 3D animations, so the fact that they can't make 3D animations for the entire Pokemon Index now is kind of hurt by the fact that they were able to do that at one point in Pokemon Stadium.
I comply.
I imagine very few people actually stuck with the entire Pokemon Game Boy series because too many came out too fast. I imagine almost every Pokemon fan who even considers them to be a super fan probably played Red, Blue, Yellow, and then a few more generations, and then eventually fell out of it and skipped at least one generation or other. Pokemon Coliseum.
Give me a quest.
This is the point where I probably personally started not remembering. I think I probably did play Pokemon Coliseum. You have to talk about the anime art style on this guy, though. This is definitely something different from what you normally see in Pokemon. Pokemon Mystery Dungeon series. I have no idea what those games are. Roguelike dungeon crawling elements. Pokemon Ranger series, never even heard of it. So clearly, as this moves on, I have not heard of most of this. Pokemon Trozy, never heard of it. So, as the generations went on, let's see. It probably, in the long run, hurt Pokemon to go so far into the spin-offs. There is definitely something that can be said to the danger of oversaturating the market, which is what I think Pokemon eventually did. Even now you have the risk of that because you're going to have Pokemon Go with like several other Pokemon applications or things integrated, and the Pokemon Game Boy games, and Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee. So like there's 4 or 5 just this generation or this generation and the previous generation games out, when it really should work its way down to being something more akin to the number of Mario and Zelda games and Metroid games that come out per console. or per generation. So we're gonna get probably 2 Mario games for the Switch generation, probably 2 Zelda games, Breath of the Wild games for this generation. We might get, I guess, another Zelda game that works on the Switch that's more of like a Game Boy Zelda game. And we're probably only going to get 1 Metroid game. So of all of those series, in comparison, there's not a lot of competition. I guess Mario Run would be another Mario game, and Dr. Mario would be another Mario game. But from what I can tell, in its first week, Dr. Mario couldn't even make $100,000 in profit, in revenue. It has been such a horrible failure, and Mario Run certainly not a major success.
Victory is yours.
So there is something to be said about taking your time. Alright. So where are we now? 3 more taunt minions are all that needs to be done. Let's move over to the European account and hope that perhaps that does not take as long as this has taken, because I'm really stretching here. And my skills as far as stretching and making small talk or talking about something and stretching out these live streams aren't the greatest.
Busy night, but there's always room for another.
I do consider myself kind of a person that has the gift of gab, but speaking without having any other input, when you're just orating or giving a speech, which is what I am doing right now, versus having people ask me questions and interact with me, is a big difference there. And that big difference, well, we have 2 overlaps to play mechs. Did we get the victories? Yes, we do. In fact, we still, I'm halfway through this. How many mechs are in this deck? None. So it's weird here to be in this situation, but I'm not even gonna bother to try and finish this tavern brawl. There's really no reason to do it. Just let it run out of time. Instead, we need to come over to the regular play. Just find a mech deck. There's Mech Hunter. And that. And play ranked. So yeah, I can stretch a little bit, but with no prompting, I've run out of things to say pretty quickly.
Rexar versus Rexar.
I suppose if I got amazingly desperate, I could get into some rants or just start going through every game I have on Steam and every game I've played on my Steam account, or just talk about every game I have on Steam. If that's really what I needed to do to make a longer video, but that would be very boring. And every rant I've been on, for people who actually follow my channel somewhat regularly, you've heard every rant that is within me, pretty much. TechRaptor has an article here. Nintendo is making hardware revisions to the Nintendo Switch. Not super surprised there. Apparently the Nintendo Switch does sell for $300. I just never see it unless it's on sale for $250. So they are changing some things, and the FCC is going to have to look at it. The 2 new hardware changes include a system on a chip to replace the NVIDIA Tegra. This is very possibly a die shrink down or improvement. So it may not actually change anything, although it might have.
Quickly.
Let's see. It will also have new NAND memory, new flash memory, new RAM. which again might not actually change anything. This might just be a case of them, Nintendo, moving some of its production out of China, or just changing suppliers. But anything, even if they did do a slight revision, it would have to be pretty slight, because people would feel like they were screwed over if it turned out there was this new version of the new revision of the Switch that was significantly better at playing games. And because of that, Nintendo would almost certainly slow down the new version to bring it close to parity of the old versions. These revisions are not likely enough to be called a new unit, like a new SKU unit. So I would assume that if there is going to be a Switch Pro, this is not the Switch Pro. That being said, there is rumors that have been going on for as long as there have been rumors that a Nintendo Lite version, a Switch Lite version, was coming out. So, if the previous rumors proved to be true, I think it's somewhat believable that a Switch Pro will come out. Although I kind of don't suspect it's coming out for this Christmas season, because if they were going to do that, they would have probably announced it before they announced the before they would have announced
I wonder what this does.
the development of the Switch Lite. Yeah, I would totally have announced the Switch Pro and then said the Switch Pro is $400. But if that sounds too expensive for you, we also have the Switch Lite option, which is $200. And yeah, that's how I would do it. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Moving on, TechRaptor has this article. RetroArch is bringing high quality emulation to Steam this month. We already talked about this. I was aware of it. It'll be interesting to see how much of this gets integrated into actual Steam. But yeah, definitely, since RetroArch seems like it's going to be free, I definitely will want to install it through Steam, just as an easy way to keep it up to date. I wouldn't be surprised if the Steam version of RetroArch is more of a stable version compared to, if you go to their website, you get more of a beta version. So you probably will take a little bit longer to get updates, but be guaranteed a slightly better return on a lack of bugs and problems. Alright. So we need to play Shaman class cards and mechs and draw cards now. So Murloc Shaman it is. And here we go. Next game we have on Steam is called Escape the Classroom, which, despite its nice artistic design, you can tell this is a Japanese classroom or Asian classroom, because they're always depicted as one wall looks out to the outside and sunlight gets in, the other wall has windows into a hallway, and then there's windows on the other end. I guess this is a design specifically around not using a lot of electricity for lighting. So this is a nice looking area that seems like you can jump and walk around, but then it seems like all they've done is bought or pre-purchased these things and made some kind of escape the room point and click adventure here, which looks incredibly boring and looks like it is just slapped over a interesting looking area. English language is not supported, so I couldn't play it anyways. It's $3.99 and it's Japanese only. Now what's funny here is it says it has English subtitles, but up here it says English language not supported because the interface doesn't have English. Yeah, there's nothing here. You could make a game where you have to escape a classroom, but wouldn't the doors need to be locked a little bit more than just a game where it seems like it really seems like you could either throw one of those desks through a window in an emergency, or throw one of the chairs through a window, or just open the door and walk right out. So you're going to have to contrive that more. There needed to be boards on the walls. There needed to be some kind of dark, spooky fog on the windows. There needed to be way more of a location, frankly.
Move quickly.
Yeah, you really can't do an entire game in one room, classroom or otherwise. It's a ridiculous concept. It is trying to do something like that movie, The Room, quite exactly. Instead of just saying to yourself, hey, let's get more budget, let's get more locations. Video games are a visual medium. You need different locations. You could probably write a book where everybody's in one room and it wouldn't be too much of a problem, but you need to change up the scenery. I think the movie The Room, by the way, I think actually had more than one location, more than one room you actually were in. I'm fairly certain it did. I only really fast forwarded through that movie because it was not really interesting to me. Moving on, we have a game on Steam here called VR Lab Academy Anatomy VR. You see a decent amount of anatomy games on the cell phone Android storefront. And I can certainly see why, because if you are in college taking anatomy classes, I don't know if any high schools in the US teach anatomy classes, although they probably should. It would be helpful to try and figure out all of the different skeletons, organs, muscles, different layers. This looks slightly interesting as a potential game if it gets polished somewhat. The ability to do this in VR, the ability to grab an organ and separate it from the rest of the body. I've seen on cell phone versions of this where it broke up the anatomy into different ways, and there would be a 99-cent one for skeletal and a 99-cent one for nerves or muscle or anything like that. This is $2.79 discounted right now, and it requires VR, and it's English and Russian, so that's a bit of a red flag. But I'm going to put this on the follow list. It covers the muscular system, let's see. It covers the muscular system, the skeletal system, the urinary system, the digestive system, the lymphatic system, the cardiovascular system, the system ventilators, and the nervous systems, which sounds like most of the systems from a layman's perspective. So yeah, this one I'm gonna put on a follow list and see if it gets enough reviews. If you were working to be a doctor or a nurse, you're probably spending so much money anyways. Spending $500 to $1,000 on a VR headset probably wouldn't really be too much more of an expense, and this might help, although it might not help at all either. Usually these kinds of softwares need a lot of text and explanation and dialogue and like full lectures around them. Sure, you could have people in VR looking at the brain, but if you're not telling them these are the ridges, these are the wrinkles, these are the lobes, this is what we think this part of the brain is mostly for, and there's a lot we don't know about the human brain, I know. There's gonna go ahead and kill this. There's only so far you can go with an app unless it is tied into a full educational experience, certainly. On the other hand, if you have a kid that wants to be a doctor, this might be a fine way to teach them the beginnings of understandings. There is a severe lack of education of anatomy, probably because of puritanical, they don't want to talk about genitalia reasons. So you really go from head, shoulders, knees, and toes that you learn in either preschool or kindergarten to getting zero anatomy lessons that are age appropriate or in any way educational until you are maybe you get a little anatomy in a sex ed class, if you get a sex ed class, or and not like a sex ed hour presentation, which is what often it's certainly what I got when I was in school, was an hour presentation and that was it. And PE might in some way talk about that stuff, but not really. And so you might get something from that when you're in like 5th or 6th grade, and then you'll get nothing basically until college. So that's certainly no way to educate or teach any subject. It always needs to be age appropriate, introduced early, and worked its way up. So yeah, anatomy often becomes one of the many things that doctors and nurses struggle with as they attempt to become doctors and nurses in college, because it's a lot of understanding and education and memorization of things that they probably should have already known anyways. Moving on, we have a game on Steam here called AOS Manager, which I don't even know what AOS means. It's a esports AOS and MOBA management game. Allegedly, to me, it just looks like a low effort Unity game, single screen Unity game that barely has any graphics in it at all. It's $4.49 discounted to English only. There's nothing here visually appealing at all. There's no way I'd want to ever play that. See, next we have a game on Steam called Back to Hell, which looks like it is a mobile game from the looks of it, some kind of weird platformer where The character was not even animated as jumping, so it's just the animated character spinning.
One shot,
Hmm.
one kill.
Yep, there's absolutely nothing here that would make me think this is a fun or well-made game. This looks like garbage. It looks like a cell phone port. They want $9.99 with no discount. It's English and Russian. Do I call this a Russian troll game? Not particularly. I just call it a very low effort Russian game, because that's pretty much what I'd put it in the category of.
Elements guide me.
Let's keep on playing. Let's see. Next game we have on Steam is a game called Highlight. It says it's an experimental experience game. To me, it looks like it's a pixel graphics adventure game. Let's see. Seems like maybe there's a smartphone integration, which means I couldn't really integrate it. Does it? Seems like it has to do with like Instagram, and you have to go to Instagram to find answers, which is certainly not something I'd ever want to do.
It's time to test your metal.
Seems like it has some full motion video in it. It's 99 cents. English with full audio, it says. Well, I kind of want to understand this game a little bit more. 6 transmedia designers and storytellers decided to take an innovative transmedia theory to the game industry. The gameplay is an indie puzzler. Is something players probably haven't seen before. The experiment and goal was to create a transmedia game, and Highlight is the proof of concept, so not even a finished product, and yet they want 99 cents for it. And can they squeeze the word transmedia in that description one more time? Because clearly they are overcompensating for something.
Elements guide me.
So, Highlight, of course, not making it to the fall list. Although, I guess that's not so much of an of course. I could see myself getting tricked into putting that on the fall list to see, well, maybe it is doing something highly artistic and highly crazy, and worthwhile mentioning and talking about, but honestly, I think it's just a bad game that they're trying to polish into a diamond, you know, polish that turd into a diamond. Yep. Moving on, TechRaptor has an article here. Ubisoft returns to hit record for Watch Dogs Legion music, which I guess after using the collaborative website Hit Record. Oh, this is that website Hit Record, not Hit Record, where they were asking and kind of paying very little, I think, to have people create art assets for the Beyond Good and Evil 2 demo, I think, pretty much. Although I think the assets are also going to be used in whatever game actually ever comes out called Beyond Good and Evil 2. Now they're using Hit Record to get people to make music for the game. Now, last time I heard about Hit Record, it seemed like it was a terrible deal as a freelance contractor. Because I think we're giving all rights to Hit Record, and you were agreeing to a not negotiated price, and like it probably was a flat fee. If I was to guess, it's probably still going to be a flat fee instead of getting royalties for every copy sold, which is kind of what you would want.
Valid target. Elements guide me.
Alright, I just gotta kill this guy. I have no chance of succeeding unless this guy goes away. Users can add or edit each other's work, eventually hit record, chooses the work it wants to use, and pays the chosen user based on their contributions. For this project, each song pays $2,000 split between the contributing artists. How the money is split is shown on hit record for all to see. So basically you're doing speculative work, and at most you're getting $2,000 for making a song that would be in Watch Dogs Legion, which will probably sell way better than $2,000. It would be a fair payment. On top of which, they might decide to go with a sample or edit of your song, and almost inherently you're guaranteed that that will be the case. Nobody is gonna put out a perfect piece of audio with no edits or anything and get the $2,000 completely. They're gonna end up splitting it several different ways, I would imagine. So what this story really tells me, though, hit record's not a good offering, first of all, and it is obviously not a good offering because after the first announcement where I heard about it when they were talking about art assets and other assets for Beyond Good and Evil 2, I immediately forgot about it because I was like, oh yeah, nobody is ever going to use that. Nobody is that dumb. No artist is that desperate. But what this also shows is that Ubisoft has not learned its lessons. There was this hope in me, at least, and maybe I was being naive, that now that Ubisoft is not under risk of being acquired, that they could take a step back and be a little bit more consumer focused and consumer friendly, and not try to pull shenanigans and not screw over the consumer, or in this case, screw over the creators of their games, and that they would actually care about their games and make them a little bit better. Ubisoft has a history of pooping out, for lack of a better term, some really bad games, even in the best series like Assassin's Creed. And the thought in my head was, oh, they had to do this because they had to show profit every quarter. They don't have to do that anymore. So they should be turning over a new leaf, in my opinion, and they're not. Instead, they're doubling down on greed. We see this in this story, and we also see in the fact that they are actively wasting their time combating the fact that people can have made some levels to remove some of the XP grindiness of Assassin's Creed Odyssey. That XP grindiness only being in Assassin's Creed Odyssey because they are selling microtransactions. So in the last 6 months to a year evaluation of Ubisoft, they've been a bad boy, and I don't think that I can feel particularly great about supporting them anymore as much as I was supporting them before. I mean, I was trying to cover all the Assassin's Creed games, but I'm not super motivated to keep doing that. I'm not super motivated to buy the next Ubisoft game. I wasn't super motivated before, but it's not gotten any better. Ubisoft is quickly becoming a game company that feels a lot like just Konami, a lot like EA, and it's probably the right attitude to take with all AAA publishers and developers. In fact, it's just like, yeah, that's not the way they should be going. So ideally, what I would look for is a change in leadership or a change in leadership attitude. It doesn't have to be an exact change in leadership, but a change in leadership attitude would be very much appreciated at Ubisoft. Although E3 is come and gone, and that would have been their time to do that, and certainly they didn't do that. So, yeah. It might be more reasonable if people are going to coordinate boycotts in their heads. This might be a good year to boycott Ubisoft from now to E3 and say we're not going to give them business until they stop acting so greedy. But who knows if that would actually work? Almost certainly wouldn't. Moving on, we have a game on Steam called The Governor, which has some visual polish on it, but is also using some visual effects to hide the facts of what this game really is and hide the screenshots pretty badly. I think this video shows it a little bit better. It's kind of a simplistic, old school RPG, I would say, for lack of a better term. Seems like when you get near somebody, you get into tactical placements and firing. Yeah, and the art doesn't look visually polished enough. And these buttons are really, really big, which makes me assume that this was some kind of mobile game that's trying to be ported. It's early access, $7.99 English. I don't see enough here to justify putting this on the follow list. Yeah, I could see some elements of a game here, but the way it's being presented makes it a problem. Right. This, and then this, and then this, and then that. And then the chat. So do I have enough to win here? Let's see. I could do 3 here, and then I can do 4, 12, 8, 12, plus another 5 would be 17. 17 plus 3 would be 20.
What to do?
Let's do this.
Elements guide me.
There we go. Next turn I win. Unless he can beat me in the next turn. Even if he clears the field, I can play this. Or do this. So, we should have that. Next we have a Gamatsu article. This, I believe, is the first Gamatsu article of the day. I guess Gamatsu probably not doing anything this weekend because there was not a lot of Japanese announcements. Yokai Watch 1 is coming to Switch according to Level 5 official virtual YouTuber, due out sometime after September 20th, it seems. So this might be the beginning of a new re-release of the Yokai Watch series. since the 3DS is obviously going away, and it originally came out for the 3DS in July of 2013. I'm not sure Yokai Watch made a bunch of ripples in the West, or even was released in the West, and I'm not sure that Yokai Watch really has any big chance of succeeding because it is still very much a Pokemon-esque style of games. So I could see it just getting defeated completely by Pokemon, some Pokemon somewhere. And certainly if I was getting a kid a kid's first RPG game, I still would put him in the Pokemon field. By far, Yokai Watch would be a secondary RPG, or if they just burnt out on Pokemon and said they would like RPGs, they just don't like Pokemon, then I'd move them on to Yokai Watch. Unless they're somehow watching a yokai anime. Gamatsu has an article here. Secondia, When They Cry, and Uminiko no Naku Koro ni Saku have been delayed to late September, and there's a Secondia opening movie. I wonder if the Secondia When They Cry is a spin-off of the other visual novels that end when they cry. This is your standard Japanese issue of announcing a game and then immediately delaying that game. So, no big surprise there. And I have no idea what these are, so I can play this trailer, but it's probably better if I just skip through it and tell you what it shows. I think the phrase "when they cry" probably is just a Japanese phrase that's gained some popularity and does not inherently indicate that it is from the same series. This trailer is basically an opening animation of anime characters. It seems like they're shooting some kind of bullet and they're following along that. It seems like there might be some mech battles or gun battles in this game, but compared to the visual novel horror games that end when they cry, I couldn't possibly remember the name of what that is. Like the animation style looks different by far. In fact, I would argue that the animation style of these characters doesn't even look particularly good. Seems like there's 3 factions. So yeah, not a lot to say here other than this kind of pudgy animation style seems to follow all of the character designs, and pudgy is probably the wrong term, but it is a very wide face on most of the characters, and some of the characters do look to have way more flesh on their arms and legs than you normally would see in an anime game, which of course that doesn't mean much other than that there's actual it's closer to an actual realistic human being proportions than they're normally drawn. See, next we have a game on Steam here called Victorian Mysteries in the Yellow Room. This says it's a mouse-only adventure game. Here you can see that even in their recording, the loading cutscene is suffering from stuttering. Oh, I guess I didn't talk about that, so we should talk about that. So this is like a point-and-click adventure game from a very long time ago, it seems like. But it's labeled as 2019, and I certainly have never heard of this game. It's $3.74 discounted. It's full English audio and German interface and subtitles. The price is probably not too bad, but it is just a hidden object game too. So
I wonder.
this is kind of the price I'd like to see all hidden object games, not just ones that look terrible and stutter.
There is little time. Elements guide me.
Cleared the field over here. So we can go into a long conversation here. I put out 2 videos over the weekend. Normally I don't put out videos on the weekend. Talking about and showing off that I have finally, after probably about 5 years, found a way to fix the horrible micro stuttering that was occurring when I was covering every single Lego game I tried to cover as soon as I built my new PC, which is basically every Lego game after Lego Star Wars: The Complete Saga. They just got worse and worse with micro stuttering. And the Resident Evil games also had major micro stuttering that I just played my way through all of these. I assumed and chalked it up to my GTX 970, which is a direct-to video card. I was never wrong about saying that yes, there was a lawsuit. Yes, only 3.5 of the 4 gigabytes has fast GPU RAM in it, and then there is 0.5 gigabytes of very slow RAM, which is going to cause issues, certainly, or at least it should cause issues, or could cause issues. But I never really had any thought that it wasn't that as an issue, and that the solution wasn't going to just be that I needed to buy a new video card. Turns out I don't need to buy a new video card, which is great because that means in a year or two I can save up my money and spend about $2,000 to build a full new PC with a new video card, new motherboard, new CPU, new faster RAM, everything being equal and balanced. Whereas if I was going to have to buy a new video card right now, then that new video card I bought right now would be pretty old by the time I built the rest of my computer. And that's not really where you would want, it's really not the position you want to be in. So, yeah. So I put out a video playing Lego Indiana Jones 2, which was a very badly programmed, very micro-stuttery game. There's a hack to fix it. The description of the hack is in the description, how to do it, and there's a link to the article. Now, in all fairness, this article came out in 2015, so it's been out there for 4 years. It just didn't come to my attention. At no point did I think that the problem actually had to do with my CPU and motherboard and did not have to do with my video card. It turned out it actually did have to do with my CPU and motherboard. There are some motherboards, and this doesn't always work for everybody, from what I can tell. But there are some motherboards, and in my case, that seems to be the case, where there are, in all motherboards, there's 2 ways to ask for a timing. There's a highly precision, let's see what time it is from the real-time clock. That's the thing on the motherboard that requires the little silver battery. That's the thing that tells the computer what time it is even when the computer is off. That's a very slow, highly precise time that you really would only need if you left your computer off for a very long time, or if you're going for high precision GPS timing data or something like that. And then there's a cheat clock inside the CPU of every CPU. Apparently, Windows 10 in particular was getting all of its clock dates from all of its timing from the highly precise but slower real-time clock, which I think was directly causing the micro stuttering. Otherwise, it's just a case of Windows 10 updated, or the Open Broadcast software updated, or something else updated. But I've tried pretty frequently, basically every 6 months, to get Lego games to run without micro stuttering, and Resident Evil 4 to run without micro stuttering, and nothing has fixed it. Sorry, I'm gonna cough some more, so I'm gonna mute myself. Sorry about that. So, nothing has fixed it. Nothing in any way has reduced the micro stuttering. And by micro stuttering, I mean frame pacing. You would get a good 30 frames per second, and then you would get this lag, and it would get chunky, and it would take a while to process the next 5 frames. It would take like way more than 1 second to make 1/60th of a 60 frames. So it would drop into like the negative territory. It made Resident Evil 4 completely unplayable. It made playing the Lego games super annoying, to say the least. But yeah, I worked my way, probably shouldn't, through a lot of Lego games and through a lot of Resident Evil games. But this one trick, once I put in this one trick, and I had also updated the Open Broadcast software to the newest version, which I've updated several times since the last time I tried. And I'd also Windows updated, Windows 10 updates. So kind of major Windows 10 update has come out since the last time I tried. Something fixed it, and I assume it's that fix. So yeah, there's a video out there, 2 videos, one showing what Resident Evil 4 plays like now. It plays perfectly fine, although I would say Resident Evil 4 feels a little clunky. I just think because it's old, and so it doesn't feel as fast-paced as playing it on the Wii originally felt like, but that's probably nostalgia. Lego Indiana Jones 2 runs perfectly fine. So I don't need to buy a video card anymore, which is great. Which means I probably saved up too much money, but that's not really a problem. It's not a problem to be too frugal on the Steam summer sale. And frankly, had I spent another $100, $200 on games on the Steam summer sale, not much would have changed, really. It would have just opened up a door to play some slightly newer games, which I'm fine on games. I do ask people to friend me on Steam and gift me games off my wish list as a way of supporting me, and there's a wide variety of different prices for games on the wish list. But now that that's not longer an issue, or at least it seems like it's an issue, no longer an issue, at some point I'll get around to playing Resident Evil 4 from beginning to end and covering that as my favorite game series. It's going to be kind of weird because I don't want to put it too close to the October, but I don't think I need to wait till next year October. Although I might just wait until that HD remastered mod comes out and improve the graphics even more that way, if that actually is allowed to go to fruition.
Ooh, I wonder what this does.
I comply.
So yeah, that's very good news. If you are seeing micro stuttering, you should tried it. I've seen some people say it didn't work. My biggest fear now is that some kind of Windows update happens again and it undoes that, or something else happens and it undoes that. But that's just paranoia. There's no logical reason why that should happen. So yeah, very happy. I wasn't in a very
How much is this worth?
positive position about having to buy a new video card. I would much rather buy a 3080 in the next generation, or a 3080 Super, even if that's how the naming convention goes, or a 3080 Titan in the next generation. Or maybe even by the time I get around to building a card, they'll be up to 4080s. So if I had bought a 2070, which is what I was looking at, it still would have been twice as powerful as what I have. But that isn't going to really change much on the quality of the videos I make. I still make very high quality videos, since most games are so old that they wouldn't be able to they really wouldn't be able to benefit from that kind of upgrade anyways. And I can't make 2K video or 4K video because I don't have enough hard drive space and I don't have enough bandwidth. So it's just not something that I could embrace anyways. Nor do I think you really need to. I don't think even the next generation of consoles are really gonna fully embrace 4K or 2K, because I don't think the next generation consoles, for the vast majority of people, are going to be plugged into 2K, 4K monitors. So I don't want to go all PC master race and say, oh yeah, you've got to watch these videos in 4K, they look so much better. I think my videos look perfectly fine, and that has more to do with bitrate than it does anything else. Now I do need more hard drive space, so a M2 SSD drive is one of the things I'm looking to buy on Prime Day. But I'm pretty picky on that one too, so I'm looking for a Samsung Evo style device, not just a lower end, lesser known brand, or I wouldn't get a lesser known brand per se. I would just potentially get a lower end one. This, and that, and then return. I should have played this instead. That would have made so much more sense. That or that. Next we have a game on Steam here called Mage, which looks like it's a platforming game. I kind of like the art style here, but I'm not really seeing a lot of gameplay here either.
And reflect.
So this might be super small, super short boss rush style game. They want $2.09 for it, so maybe it's priced right to account for that. Although it does have a mirror mode and skin pack available for $9.74. It's English only. I'll put this on the follow list to see if people will actually review it, but it doesn't really look like it would be enough content here to justify even the $2.09. Like I know people are picky, and I'm certainly no exception there. But I would like to see more for my buck when looking at games. Let's see, next we have a game on Steam here called The Hunter's Journals, which seems to me to be mostly a text-based game with a little bit of art. It says it's a Unity game. I don't know why you would make a text-based game in Unity, but that's kind of an intriguing idea. And clearly there is some art here, but not enough. They want $5.99 for this, and it's English only with 15 achievements. This looks too much like a text-based game, really. Yeah. I think I have to reject it for that. It would just, as the person who would have to read out loud all of that text, that would just be a nightmare scenario. Let's see. Next, we have an article from Gamasutra. Get a job. Insomniac Games is hiring a senior character TD, which, oh, what does a TD stand for? Let's see, TD/Rigger for Insomniac Games in Burbank, California. Let's see. I don't know what TD is supposed to stand for. I want you to be able to know how to use Python and Maya, which is mostly 3D animation. I hate when they list job listings and then they use jargon. Like, I have no idea what character TD means. Technical director/rigger? Is that what that's supposed to mean? Or what? Like, I think I just lost. Yeah, I lost. He can just attack me and win. But he's gonna rub it in and play Pyro Blast. Or maybe he needed to play mage cards. Alright, so draw 3 more cards, or just leave that. See, the problem here is if I come over here and play Zoo Warlock really quickly, I think I'm gonna draw 3 more cards and then get another Fire Festival daily quest, which means this could be a lot more time to play.
Versus Rexa.
Let the hunt begin. Your soul shall be mine.
And I guess you're not technically drawing 3 cards at the beginning. That would be too easy. So Gamasutra here has a blog, Fashion and Games, Why It Matters. Now, what I wanted to talk about this in this blog before I've read even a second of it is I'm gonna be rather peeved if they don't mention any Japanese fashion in Japanese games, because the one thing anime is known for is having way too many belts and way too much high fashion in their games. Look at any of the modern Final Fantasy games, Final Fantasy 14, 15. There's definitely some fashion put in that. Even the Pokemon in the Yu-Gi-Oh games, major crazy fashion and high fashion that is way over the top compared to what a normal person would wear. Fashion certainly matters a bit without even scrolling down, though, in video games and any form of animation, because it's a way of identifying the character in a crowd, and it's a way of identifying character traits in a character at first glance. You have a rich person in fancy, opulent clothing. Usually you have a poor person in ratty, boring clothing. You have someone who's a fighter in armor, obviously. So there is this constant attempt to prove and expand on the characters and make them understandable visually without having them talk their way through their characters. Alright, so let's start looking here. Let's see, this is a communication director at Kitfox Games, which is a Canadian Indian studio who's making Boyfriend Dungeon. Which I guess Boyfriend Dungeon is different from what is the one where the boyfriends are the swords? My boyfriend is a sword. I think that is Boyfriend Dungeon. So this is a hype article about that. Now I will say that the Boyfriend Dungeon does have that anime high fashion art style. Here they have a screenshot. Frustrated GTA Online players want much better clothes for the women. This does look like this is probably a pretty realistic motorcycle riding outfit for a female, but not particularly interesting to look at for sure. Yeah, there's an article. Aesthetics is greater than domination. Here you have a random collection of different outfits placed over what is actually the exact same body with just different hair types and different skin tones, which makes it very interchangeable. So here we have a character from Xenoblade Chronicles 2. I didn't recognize him. Yeah, you have a very high fashion, crazy anime art style, and then you have Resident Evil 2 character designed to be realistic, and so it's pretty generic, but there are some hints here. They do put on a sweater, they do put on the boots, but you could easily have given a bracelet, a necklace. A necklace, totally. You could have easily done some earrings, maybe a tattoo, although Japanese people don't like tattoos. There's not even a holster for a gun, so depending on the characterization of the character, when they got that gun, or whether they'd likely have been holding on to a gun, comes into play. I believe Claire is supposed to be a police person. Wait. This isn't even Claire. I'm saying the wrong name. Jill Valentine. This is Jill Valentine. So, that seems like totally wrong, particularly when I just saw the cutscene of Jill Valentine being labeled as the lady in red, and there's not a bit of red in her outfit. Here we have some high fashion sketches of characters. Now, I would say this is way too layered for most high fashion. Like, you don't need leggings covering up the entire legs. You don't need black shoes with black leggings. You can barely even tell that these shoes go up to this point on the knees. You don't need black high heels. There's definitely more detail that could be here. Just little bits of white around the neck. It's not really enough. There probably should be some offsets of colors. This is from Deus Ex Human Revolution. I would say that the fashion could have been improved a little bit better there, from my understanding of fashion. And then you have Quiet, which this is this is not a high fashion design. It is a statement on an artistic's own desires, and nothing else.
Time's up.
Let's see. So you have Quiet here, and then he put out the cheap thing that she breathes through her skin, and that's why she was wearing the bikini top and nothing else, and then these leggings. It's not particularly an interesting or sexy outfit. It is just a revealing outfit for no reason. It is a probably direct FU to Konami, who probably told him something. I would say the black one sleeve is a little bit fashionable versus the one glove, but there's ways you could have gone through this and done better. It's a misfit, ill-fitting bra top. The less is more would definitely be appreciated here. Again, a tattoo in this case would make a lot of sense since she's supposed to be this military person. The rip stockings don't do anything. The black boots don't really do anything. It's definitely not designed to be a fashion, and I think everybody could tell that. On the other hand, we have a collection of hero outfits that are iconic, but also as ridiculous as any standard Japanese outfit on a female character. Like, you have Captain America. This is a ridiculous outfit from like the 40s that has just been evolved slightly for that point. And then you have one of the Yu-Gi-Oh characters, which is not really too different from any of the other Yu-Gi-Oh characters, frankly, other than the bandit, the America bandana. Everybody had these high collar school uniform coats and different shirts on it. Then you have a couple of Street Fighter. I don't think this guy's from Street Fighter, but he's probably from a different fighting game. Not every American person, though, needs either a tattoo of the American flag or the color palette of the American flag. All of these are pretty bad fashion designs, too. Like, not a lot of effort or thought was put into this in general. Here we have what looks like a decent range of traditional Chinese outfits. From Mass Effect, which doesn't make a lot of sense. If this was set in ancient China, having bits of color to show wealth makes sense, while intricate pattern and lacing, which is often ignored, is a case of an issue. Here, nothing too bad about these outfits. And what's interesting about this too is this is a direct focus in this picture on the outfits. It's not showing you a person with inside of it. Although that's not very helpful in the real world, it is kind of helpful in virtual fashion, in video game fashion, because in the real world, the fashion models, at least in part, are supposed to be showing you how the clothing should flow and should look, although no fashion model, for the most part, is of a realistic proportional body size to most people, and men or women, female fashion models. And then you have garbage games like Anime Dress Up, which should not be considered too much at all. And then you have, what is this game here? Love Nikki? Is that the name of this one? Where you have the high fashion mixed with the moe anime style. So this is little girls, possibly teenagers, probably preteens, in high fashion anime outfits that you could never actually buy these kinds of outfits even unless you had a dressmaker on retainer, because these type of things are too expensive and too easily ripped and torn to be actually worn by kids. And I don't think kids would particularly want to on a daily basis wear these kind of outfits. That's where one of the many ways in which anime is different than reality. Although there are certainly some dress-up dresses that little girls like to wear when they're going to events, whether that's a prom or a dance or any other kind of ballroom type event. Particularly in this case, you can tell a lot from this fashion that this is supposed to be a Little Red Riding Hood style character, so you can read a lot into that character right there. This is supposed to be a royal like character, and the ears tell me that it's probably a fox spirit, so it's supposed to be also slightly supernatural and mythical to it, whereas this girl in her green outfit with the doll is telling me that she's going to be slightly more childish. This green represents almost like a baby doll or a baby's clothing, so she's going to be a lot more childish in her personality. And you can kind of get it where, so this one is more adventurous and willing to go places. This one's more childish, and this one's more regal and supernatural. And that's what I can tell just from the outfits. And if your character in a game like this doesn't really feel, if the personality of that character doesn't really match the clothing, some of these games make it very easy to switch the clothing so it feels more like your character. Let's see. This game, Love Nikki, actually looks rather interesting. Might try it out, although I imagine it's full of microtransactions looking at it. Meanwhile, and I know we're not playing Hearthstone right now, but that's fine. You have Hitman, where part of the game of Hitman is that he steals clothing and costumes from people. So in Hitman 2, here you have Agent 47 as a delivery man, a surgeon, a pest control agent, and a waiter. And while each of these outfits are practical, they're also hyper realistic, and so they're pretty boring, frankly. And the most interesting thing in Hitman 2 is you're looking from behind, so you just see his bald head and the tattoo on the back of his bald head the whole time. But yeah, you don't get to see the front of outfits very often, and you can see that they did not spend a lot of work in it. That being said, he is also a hitman who's sneaking around, so does he want to be in an outlandish, obvious to pick out of a crowd outfit? No. Seems like the triangle that this article is using is informative, expressive versus fun, which I think is fair. I think this is a fair breakdown, as you want the fashion to be at some point informative, some amount, at some point expressive, telling either the personality of the creator of the game or the personality of the character that's wearing the outfits. I don't think there's anything wrong with the Sinran Kagura's creator, for instance, making his ninja girls in scantily clad outfit, because that says a lot about his personality and the personality of the game, and may say less about the actual characters themselves. And then fun, again, Sinran Kagura games are designed to be full of lewd, scantily clad anime girls, so it's not fun if a game like Sinran Kagura gets censored on the PlayStation side, and you can't see as much as you would like to see. So I don't really disagree with this. So let's do the comparison now for Boyfriend Dungeon, because that's what this blog really is. It's just a hype article for that. I would say these shoes to start with, not amazing, but I like the fact that you can see the socks. We haven't been seeing really just bits of socks or bits of a shirt sleeve outside of a coat. These pants look pretty generic though. There's no pockets, there's no anything really. The shirt is just a white beater, as they're called. And his coat, I like the inner lining, but it really doesn't match with the outer lining, the outer style of the coat. That's alright, but again, I'm not seeing any pockets, a small collar. This looks all over the place because you have somebody that looks like they're going to play tennis. Then when you look at the pants, it looks like they're going to go running if they were like sweatpants, or possibly go to work if they're supposed to be like some kind of blue corduroy pants. There's no belt here, there's no zipper, no fly as far as I can tell. Then you've got this white shirt. Again, it looks like he's lounging around this house, but then you've got a fancy coat which doesn't balance on this at all. And I would say the hair and the beard kind of doesn't match any of this either. So for all this talk of knowing fashion, I don't see great fashion here. When we look over on this one, it's less, so I guess a less is a little bit more. You've just got a bare chest with spikes on the shoulder. Remember, this is supposed to be a sword that turns into a boyfriend, which is a stupid concept. And inherently, the stupid concept of throwing everything in but the kitchen sink is showing itself also in this fashion too. Here you've got a belt. It's a pretty big belt, but it's better. I'm seeing what looks like pockets here. It looks like he's wearing a ring. Looks like maybe he's got black nail polish, or maybe that's just not drawn in. And you can see this black coat seems to match a little bit better here, and the red pants are a little bit better. But neither one of these are strikingly, amazingly good fashioned. And here's some comparisons of crazy fashion in the past, which they always highlight the craziest possible fashions, and don't realize that high fashion is all about being crazy on to get people's attention, and then some small part of a suit like this will become the new fad that ends up in the Walmarts and Targets. So it might just be that a gold belt that is not anywhere this big will be the new fashion, and so you'll start seeing more gold belts. Or it might be that big hats are brought back into fashion, and so you'll start seeing more big hats, but not anyway as big as this. So they throw like 500% power outfits in fashion, and then it gets edited down by not high fashion designers, but actual practical clothing designers who take inspiration from that. So really, it's a nice gig to be a high fashion designer if you can make money off of it, because you're basically just, your number one job is to inspire other fashion designers, practical designers. I would also say the anime crazy high fashion, I'd like to see more Western games adopt that. Not all of them, for sure, but there is definitely something that could have been done here more. In particular, there's total lack of color in like Deus Ex Human Revolution. So I get that they were sticking to a palette, but it's not particularly interesting. And there's a lack of details in Jill Valentine. that I don't like particularly. So that was an interesting article that laid down the ground without me actually reading it to rant as much as I wanted to. Alright. So I'm not going to take 25 turns on the European account. And we should be alright. So let's now move over to the Asian account. I'm a little glad to have that. Although I'm not breaking up the recording, which I need to get back to breaking up recordings. And as you probably can tell, I take fashion a little seriously. Like, I am very much attracted to the visual media part of video games, and so seeing generic, boring characters, generic, boring outfits definitely hurts my experience. Right, so we need to take 20 turns, play 5 mechs, play a bunch of shaman class cards, and I guess I played off screen. Interesting. Alright, well, are there any mechs in here? I can't really justify playing this anymore. So I think I played off screen and got the Tavern Brawl done. Because clearly it says I've already done that. Alright, so instead we'll play mechs and get the 5 mechs done, and then we'll play shaman and get that done. Moving on, we have a Gamatsu article here. River City Girls, 8 minutes of off-screen gameplay. So, River City Girls is like the spiritual successor, I guess, to River City Rampage. And somebody just put a camera in front of it. So you're going to have a black and white manga style intro to it. And then it's a beat 'em up brawler. Here's another example of why fashion is helpful. You've got these bad guys in these white suits that sticks very well up against the orange wall in the background. I think I want to play River City Girls. And probably I want to get on the train of covering Rampage style games, beat 'em up style games more frequently. Here you can see there's little bits of intros to this boss battle. Yep, this looks like it'll be a moderately interesting game. Now, depending on how it actually plays, that is the big if. Certainly. Let's see, Gamma Sutra has an article here. A reality-focused game dev named Surrogate has secured $2 million in funding. This is a Finnish company. This is a little inside baseball, more than I'm interested in knowing or caring about. One of the great things about getting tired of listening to GameIndustry.biz, is just the large amount of industry inside information that was coming out and I was covering that really didn't matter in the long run, because it just doesn't mean anything. Next we have a game on Steam here called Lost Region. You can see it's already very negative on this. I assume this is some kind of free-to-play buggy game, or perhaps this is a game that's stolen assets or something like that, and it's irritated people who would have been their fans in some way. Early access for $14.99, English only. We could see what the negative reviews are. I got extremely bored in the first 10 minutes with no direction and no options. I was able to communicate using the mic instead of chat. I found it pretty not useful. can't see the list of player names. Mediocre. So people are just not happy with the experience. Okay, that's totally believable. Now I need to remember I need to play 5 mechs before I die. So Lost Region, of course, is not making it to the follow list. Gamma Sutra has an article here. Red Candle won't re-release Devotion yet, following the China controversy. Devotion developer Red Candle says a scandal involving an art asset that marked the Chinese president Xi Jinping and seemingly resulted in the game's publisher IndieVent having its business license revoked in China has caused immeasurable, quote, immeasurable harm. It posted a lengthy statement on Facebook. The company apologized to everyone affected by the incident, including the publisher IndieVent and the developers who worked on the horror title. Which I'm a little surprised they're even talking about it right now, because I thought they were just gonna go radio silent for a very long time. Let's see if there's anything else new to be said here. Is quote, it has significantly and adversely impacted all parties, end quote. That's there's a bigger quote. For the past 4 months, the art asset incident related to Devotion has caused immeasurable harm to Red Candle Games and our partner. We'd like to offer the most sincere apology to all impacted terms and personnel. Red Candle and its partner are assuming all responsibility for the losses. We will not stop in our endeavor to prevent the damage from worsening, end quote, says. So, I think what you might take from that is that they are never going to release Devotion, which never is a long time, certainly, but I wouldn't be surprised if this became a game that doesn't come out for another 5 to 10 years, and they re-release it as the game that caused the controversy and sell it on the controversy. The question for the tinfoil hat fans, the conspiracy theorists, is really, is Red Candle, are the people who worked at Red Candle and worked to make Devotion in actual danger of the Chinese government inflicting some form of harm on them from China, even though they're in Thailand?
I wonder what this does.
And some could very easily argue that everyone everywhere is increasingly becoming in danger of the wrath of China in some way or some other. So who knows? Yeah, if I was in any way affiliated or related to somebody who worked at Red Candle, I would not be traveling to China. In fact, you might not be traveling anywhere. It is not unheard of for countries to put BS no-fly lists out there claiming that somebody who is a political opponent is actually a criminal and should be extradited to your country. So, yeah, there's real danger, and there's certainly financial danger that they're feeling the wrath of, all because of one artist seemingly doing something without the permission of anyone else. That's at least the way it seems now. If it was the other case, and everybody at Red Candle wanted that art to go out, well, then they really should have doubled down on it, because it doesn't seem like it really matters, and apologizing, this is a great example of why you should never apologize, is it just doesn't stop anything or work in any way. You should never admit guilt and never apologize for anything and just say, yeah, I meant to do that, and say that, and I'm glad I did and said that. It's a jerk way to live your life, it's a jerk way to act, but sadly it's the thing that is the best way to react also. Nice guys finish last is unfortunately the truth in most situations. Moving on, Twitch support had a tweet from 4 hours ago. We've discovered an issue with some bits and subs purchased through the Android app have not been reflected in the customer's account. We're working to resolve it and will issue refunds to everyone who's been impacted in the coming weeks. Apologies for the trouble. So, consistent problems, frankly, on Twitch. And again, every time I say this, I have to encase it in the thought that it's very possible YouTube has similar or the same problems, and YouTube support just doesn't announce that these problems exist in such a direct and easy to see way. I follow YouTube. I follow YouTube support. If there were a significant amount of people who were having problems on YouTube and YouTube actually wanted to fix any of those problems, they probably would come out and say something, but they very well may not. Certainly for years people have said, oh, we're losing subs, oh, we're not getting notifications, and YouTube has directly said, oh, that's not true. It's working fine. They just ignore you and BS you. Well, here we're gonna have to reset the clock, I guess, on talking about Gearbox's CEO Randy Pitchford, because Borderlands 3 has retweeted them, and that's not even the story I was going to talk about from Borderlands 3. I wanted to talk about the VIP Season 2 coming out very quickly, and that seems crazy that this VIP program is nothing but a program designed to make you pre-order Borderlands 3 on the Epic Games Store or on console. And they're already to Season 2 before the game is even out of this VIP program, which is just crazy. Like, I mean, you really can't say anything else. It's just crazy. There we go. But we have to talk about this. 5 hours ago, Randy Pitchford said, some folks may be speculating that the thing tomorrow may be about crossplay. Tomorrow's thing is awesome, but quote, not about crossplay. Good news, we are committed to supporting crossplay for Borderlands 3 with our partners as soon as practicable. This isn't a word. Practicable. This is not a word here. It's supposed to be practical, but you put a B here. That being said, Twitter, Randy Pitchford being bad at spelling is probably the nicest thing I could say about Randy Pitchford or anything. The only other thing I can add to this is he's also kind of a known BSer and liar, so it's very possible that the thing tomorrow is about crossplay. But that's not even what I wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk about Borderlands VIP Season 2, a Zane skin and head, and a new mural of mayhem wallpaper and tons of sweet, sweet loot. Sign up here. But to be in the VIP program, you have to pre-order the game. So you are definitely missing out on these like pre-order things that they are putting out here if you hadn't pre-ordered the game from the beginning. That being said, it's possible that I won't get around to playing Borderlands 3 until there's a definitive version of the game, definitive edition, because it will take 6 months until it comes to Steam. At that point, I probably won't be in any way hyped to play the game, so why not just wait a couple more months. And at that point, yeah, wait a couple more months and wait for a Game of the Year edition at the very least that includes all the DLC and such. Yep. I would almost argue that the general audience for Borderlands has done a rather appreciable good job about not getting overhyped for Borderlands 3, which is nice, because normally you see gamers getting super hyped about it. Now, the reason why they're not overhyped is because it's an Epic Store exclusive on PC, because Randy Pitchford has pooped in the pool, for lack of a better term, multiple times. And just in general, I think some of the release of the new DLC around for Borderlands 2 probably sucked some of the excitement out for Borderlands 3. The whole Kick Vic situation involving Rooster Teeth, and then one of the voice actors of Claptrap working at Rooster Teeth may have added some confusion to the situation too. So yeah, I don't know if there is actually a connection there or not. It's just a lot of things have gone on to eat the steam out of Borderlands 3, which should be the game of the year for this year. And when it comes out, it should be the thing everybody plays this season, and very possibly it won't be. Moving on, TechRaptor has an article here. The Nintendo Switch Lite isn't for you, but it has an audience. So I guess the idea there is if you're reading a TechRaptor article, you're too much of a game fan to really appreciate the Switch Lite. I could certainly see getting the Switch Lite instead of the Switch, but then ending up having next year to get the Switch in general. Particularly if you have multiple kids, and you've already purchased one Switch, maybe it makes some sense to get the Switch Lite at that point. But you could also be in a holding pattern, and you would probably be better off, if you're trying to get your kids into games, just buying a oh, that was a mistake. What am I trying to say? Buying a used 3DS probably makes more sense, because you could get those games cheaper, and there's more variety there, and there's a whole collection of either 3DSs or 2DS games that you could get a lot cheaper. Even now, if you're trying to get kids into gaming and you want them to go the Xbox route or the PlayStation route, getting an Xbox 360 or a PlayStation 3 is still not a bad idea. Moving on, we have a game on Steam here called Break the Game. It's got some umlauts and accents over the name. This looks like it is just a low-effort platforming game that I don't know if there's supposed to be some programming or something in this that would somehow break the game otherwise. And no, this seems like this is probably just an attempt to make it feel like a Super Meat Boy style platformer, but yeah, I kind of don't see anything here of interest. This feels like a troll game. It's $9.99. Visually, I don't find this game appealing. I just don't. It's English only. 21 achievements seems a little high. This very possibly is a frustration game, and I don't want to play any frustration games. Now, did I play the 5 mechs that I needed to play? Yes. So now I just need to play Shaman cards. See, next we have a game on Steam called Fort. Looks like an RPG Maker game for lack of a better description. Yeah, I don't see anything here. It's $1.79 discounted, English and Russian. Looks just generic and uninteresting. Only have a couple more things to talk about, but I think I'll probably go back to my Twitter feed and find some new things to mention. But we are approaching the end of this stream, and I am going to just have to do some of this off screen, I think. Let's hold on to that and get rid of that. Let's see, Gamatsu has an article here. Everreach Project Eden launches in September for Xbox One and PC, and later in 2019 for PS4. This looks a little bit like a Fallout style game in space. It's fast-paced, story-driven action RPG. Let's see, let's look at this reveal trailer. When did this get announced? In the middle of E3? Looks a little StarCrafty in the outfit and stuff. There. I'll pause that. Let's come back over here.
Converting stored energy.
So yeah, seems like you're on a planet and you're doing a lot of first-person shooting, and you get some abilities, and you've got a outfit that seems to have a shield on it. Looks like there might be a real game here. What would be funny is if something like that came out and that was more interesting than Borderlands, because it is somewhat the same concept of Borderlands. Of course, that is in a lot of ways a hype article, so it's also very possible that Everreach Project Eden turns into nothing. Gamma Sutra has an article here. Devs express optimism, caution. Optimism, caution over the Steam Interactive Recommender. I was optimistic, not particularly cautious, because there's nothing that would really affect me. It should be optimism slash caution, not caution, or it should just say and caution. Using a comma to replace the word and is not appropriate. I've never seen that used before. The only people that would not be happy, I think, with the release of the interactive slider were people who were very much succeeding despite it. Everyone else is likely going to get more impressions on their games at the very least, not less. People who make AAA games might be upset with the interactive recommender, but the way the interactive recommender is and is how it's accessible doesn't integrate into the store anyways, so it's not like it even matters. When you're on an individual page, you're still just on that individual page for that game. You have to go specifically to the Steam Labs position, which here's Steam Labs now. You have to go here, and then you have to work your way through that. Next game we have on Steam is a bunch of Asian characters, and it's called Flowering Across the Hakyogyo, which is positive 27%. So looks like this is part visual novel, part RPG. I guess it's more of an RPG. It looks like it's probably a Chinese game. It's 84 cents discounted and Chinese, yeah. Doesn't look terrible for a Chinese game though. I do think very rapidly we're starting to see better and better Chinese games on PC. This is a downright nice art piece, but a lot of this also feels like it's just RPG Maker assets. I guess we'll go one more game. But yeah. Gamatsu has an article here. Wings of Darkness 2019 official trailer. Do you have what it takes to liberate humanity? This looks like this is going to be a flying shoot 'em up anime based game if I was to guess. Let's see. Yeah. Let's see what the trailer shows us. So yeah, it looks like you're in some kind of maybe a mech flying suit in a 3D shoot 'em up. If it looks very polished and fast paced in this, and you're gonna have a characters that you're actually dealing with, which is something I think I would definitely appreciate. Having very little or no backstory to games like this often leaves you just wanting to play the game alone, and after about 5 to 30 minutes of playing a game like this, I probably would lose my interest. So having a story behind it helps me. Probably helps a lot of people in a lot of games. This looks interesting, very, very interesting. Will it come to the West? That's a good question.
There is little time.
But yeah, that's cool. Next we have a game on Steam called Ascend, which looks like it's an asset flip. It says it's an RPG game. To me it looks like it's a co-op player versus player game. Whatever it is, you can see it's not very well polished or interesting looking. It's free and English only. Is there anybody who's reviewed it yet? Nope. I think people can pretty well tell it's not worth anyone's time. Alright. Well, there went my guy.
There is little time.
So that brings me to the Humble Bundle store. Let's see if there's any new Humble Bundles. Let's see. This. Let's see. There's a learning new languages books bundle. I don't know if that's programming languages or regular languages. There's a comics bundle, but we're still with the PlayStation games bundle being the only games bundle, and that's gonna end in 7 days.
I wonder.
Alright. This.
That's not a valid target.
Why is this not a valid target? Give a friendly Murloc. I guess that's a beast.
There is little time.
I'm gonna have so much. I'm gonna have so much Murlocs. So yes, this learning new languages bundles is a bunch of collections of books for dummies, Spanish essentials, Italian, French, German, German essentials, German phrases, and Spanish phrases. If you pay more than $8, you unlock some more of the game languages for dummies. If you pay $15, you get some more languages for dummies. These seem to be all the dummies books, though, and so you're either going to get them in EPUB format, or yeah, I don't think you're getting a real print book if you bought it on the Humble Bundle store. Let's see. There we go. Right. So that then brings me back to my Twitter feed, and we'll just scroll down the Twitter feed. Like, it would be pretty crazy, I suppose, if somehow they announced something not Borderlands related at all tomorrow. There we go.
Job's done.
The Jackbox Party Pack Steam codes are now 60% off through Twitch, which interesting. You're buying Steam codes through Twitch. That seems very weird. Right, so I'll need to play some more Shaman cards. And I'll need to draw some more cards off screen. But I think we are good enough now. There's no more news to talk about, and I'm scrolling down my Twitter feed right now and seeing a distinctive lack of new news. Yep, there's nothing new. So that's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below in the description box. And if you want to support me even further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.